For thousands of years, a legend has remained hidden.
There's this one night that I can remember, where at night, all you could hear were the howls and the screams that just came echoing from the woods.
Of a beast that only lives in folklore.
I turned around, and that's when Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it, walked out of myth and into reality.
A creature believed to be the missing link between humans and apes.
I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that what I was looking at that day was not a human.
Are these animals real, or a part of our imagination? Find out right here on Sasquatch Diaries.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Sasquatch Diaries podcast. I am your host, Gus G. This week, we have a very special and different interview with a gentleman named Ryan White, who is part of an organization called the Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research Organization. So let's give him a warm welcome and jump right into it. Ryan, are you there?
Hey, this is Ryan White. I'm with the Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research Organization. It's kind of a mouthful, but that's the name. It's a good name. I represent the Northeast District of the state of Oklahoma concerning our Bigfoot reports that come in. I'm in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area. That's where I am. In the group, I kind of have the role of, when we're out in the field, I'm the cameraman. I'm the guy that holds the camera, and I follow around our other investigators as they discover things when we're out in the field. When I'm not in the field, my job description would be I take care of the website. I post stuff to our website. I also collect and add all of our reports to our database that we've started. We do have a Bigfoot database, primarily reports from Oklahoma. We will take reports from anywhere, surrounding states, Arkansas, Texas, anywhere, Missouri. So those are kind of my roles and my duties with the group.
Fantastic. Okay. And thanks again for being on the show. We really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. I'm glad to be here. Thanks. This is one of my first interviews. So if I don't do very well, I apologize. I'm doing my best here. I'm trying to be confident.
You're doing a great job thus far. Thank you again. So you said that you service a couple different states that surround the Oklahoma area. Tell us about certain reports. Like how often are you out in the field? How often do you reach out to people who submit reports? How does that work exactly?
Yeah, sure. So I try to go on one or two just expeditions a year. It just kind of depends on my schedule. I try to go out with our lead investigator, Troy Hudson. He's our lead investigator. He's the founder of NOBRO, as we call it, the NOBRO. We like to call it NOBRO.
Awesome.
I go with him in southeast Oklahoma. We have a couple of different places we go to. But as far as the reports, we go as the reports flow in. We have a couple of habituation sites. I don't know the complete details on those, but we do have a couple of habituation sites, and the investigators that are in that district, they'll go out there and they try to educate, inform the people that contact us that they feel they have a presence or a Bigfoot on their property. And so they kind of go there to educate them and comfort them and that sort of thing.
Wow. Okay. So do you guys in the Oklahoma area or surrounding areas for that matter, do you guys ever get, for example, people who reach out to you because they have a problem with these animals? Like, are they stealing food? Like you said that you have certain people that reach out to you that have, these creatures living on their property. Is, what kind of investigation goes on with that? What do you do? Do you show them how to deal with them? Do you try to record them, study them? How does that work?
So yeah, how that works is, sorry, excuse me. How that works is, Sorry, I got distracted. Can you
Uh-huh.
kind of lead up to that question again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, when you get reports from people reaching out to you with these creatures living on their property, what's the protocol? Do you teach these people how to kind of make peace with the animals that are living on their property? Do you kind of drive them out, or do you study them? What goes on there?
Yeah, so the people that are reaching out to us, usually if they're concerned, it's probably because they have small children. And so if they have something prowling around their property, they're concerned for their children. That's primarily like the biggest like concern for these witnesses or these people that contact us. I think a policy that we go with is if you leave them alone, they're going to leave you alone. There's been instances where it's the siege of Honubby. I don't know if you've heard of that, but that whole thing went down not in the right direction. The people they used guns. They fired upon these things. It made the things more aggressive. So we're trying to tell people, if you're not aggressive towards them, they shouldn't be aggressive towards you. That's our normal policy. I mean, there's going to be instances, yeah, sure, where they are aggressive, probably no matter what. We have the thought where, it's like people, there's good people and there's people that aren't good people. And so maybe that's kind of the same thing with these creatures. There's mostly good, but maybe every once in a while you have a bad apple that's aggressive. But for the most part, we try to let them know, relay this to the people that, stay back, give them their space, respect them, and they will respect you.
Fantastic. Okay. So you said Kona? Is that what you said? The Kona incident?
The siege at Honubby.
Oh, Honubby. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm not going to go in great detail, but so basically what happened was there was a man, I think this was around 2000, in the Honubby area, and he had a little shed out back of his property. He's out in the woods, a town or anything. He's out, in the middle of nowhere, Honubby area of Oklahoma. He had this little shed in his back, and it was a harsh winter. Food, I guess, was hard to come by then, and he kept deer meat in this shed out back. And apparently, these creatures stumbled upon these deer. They could, smell it or whatever, and they found the deer meat. They kept coming back and revisiting, wanting to get to that deer meat. And at the time, I don't think the owner knew that was the reason, but that was later. That's what we're reflecting back to. We think that's the reason they kept returning, was this deer meat in their shed. Anyway, he contacted the BFRO at the time, and they sent some investigators out. And they were coming up very, very close, almost on their porch. And one of the nights that the investigators were there, I think the investigators even kind of recommended he didn't fire at these creatures, but he did. Apparently, he shot one. And the story is that one of these creatures grabbed the other one that was shot, carried it off in the wood line, and I think they even tried to track the creature. And anyway, they didn't find it. But later on that same evening, a truck driver was driving down the Indian Highway of Honubby, and he saw a hair-covered creature crossing the road with another creature on its shoulder. It was carrying it. And anyway, he was a truck driver. What's funny about the truck driver is he would never call it a Bigfoot or anything like that. He would only refer to it as it. He saw it.
Okay.
Anyway, he saw him cross the road, and that's basically the story in a roundabout way.
Wow.
And you can I think you can look it up in the BFRO archives.
Okay.
That would be HONOBIA, Honubby. Siege at Honubby is what it's referred to. It's a whole big write-up.
Okay, and it took place in 2000, you said?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so for all of our viewers at home, just make sure to take a look and take a peek at that if you're a little more curious about that. That's Honobia, Honab, Siege of Honobia, correct?
Honobia.
Honbia. Okay, that's my apologies.
That's okay.
Wow, that is absolutely incredible. Wow. Okay, so obviously, I mean, these creatures are they're seen fairly often from what I've heard in Oklahoma.
Yeah, we have our fair share of reports. You can't just put a frequency on it, but like how often it actually happens. But yeah, we definitely get reports. We just had a report. We posted it on our Facebook page back on May 6th. It had a bunch of buzz and a lot of viewers. It reached 172,000 people. I mean, it just exploded, and it was just a report from south of the Lexington Wildlife Management Area in Oklahoma. It was just a little bit south of there, and this off-duty corrections officer, he was driving, and he said he was about to go around a curve and I think go head back north. And he just out in front of him in his headlights saw a hair-covered creature, and he wasn't sure what to make of it. It definitely caught his attention, and he contacted the NOBRO. He contacted us. We have a field investigator that is he lives in that area, and he's working that case. And that's still kind of pending, so we'll have to stay tuned for what he finds out more about that. But yeah, that was back on May 6th when we posted that. So, and I think we've even had another sighting that we've reported since then. But yeah, they come in pretty frequent.
Man, that is incredible. That's like 2 weeks ago, basically.
Yeah. It wasn't very long ago. So we have a representative looking into it that lives in that part of the state, and like I said, that's pending what he finds and what he discovers about that, and wants to his little report write up about that, and so we'll add that to our database, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Wow, that's incredible. Okay. So if I may ask, what sparked your interest? I mean, did you have an encounter yourself? Have you always just been interested in the phenomenon itself and these creatures? And like, how did it work for you? How did you get involved?
Yeah. I have kind of I don't know if it's I don't have a spectacular sighting story that got me into it or anything. Mine's probably kind of boring, but here's how it goes. I was probably a teenager around 15, probably 95, 96 was the year. And I was just watching Discovery Channel, caught a documentary. I saw Dr. Jeff Meldrum on there, saw his Bigfoot print casts that he had. Immediately, I was fascinated by the topic. Immediately, I was open-minded. On the program, they talk about skeptics and people not, wanting to accept the evidence that he had. And immediately, I was just open-minded to this topic, and I was just fascinated by it. And then what really was hook, line, and sinker for me was a guest on that program. His name was Jimmy Chilcutt. And he's a fingerprint expert for the FBI in, I think it was Conroe, Texas, if I believe. He also specializes in prints for primates. And according to the program that I watched, there was only like 5 people in the world that were experts on primates prints for primates. And he was one of them. And his testimony really caught my attention because on the program, he said he was watching some program on TV, saw Dr. Meldrum's casts, and he was skeptical, and so he contacted Meldrum, and he went in and he actually examined all his prints in his library. And one of the comments on the program that really got me was he said, "Okay, here's 2 prints that are 20 years apart, and they're like 100 miles apart, and they have the same flow pattern of the ridges, the dermal ridges going up and down." And he said going up and down is a little bit different than apes or even humans, but he said they were very thick ridges, and he said there's just no way you can fake that unless you're just an expert in this like he was. I mean, just people back then just wouldn't know that. And why would they do it 20 years apart and hundreds of miles apart? How would people just know to do that? So that really caught my interest in it. It grew from there. It kind of faded out during my college years and stuff like that. And then I got back into it. I heard about this festival in Oklahoma. It's called the Honubby Bigfoot Festival. And so that kind of re-sparked my interest about 5 years ago. And so I've been going down there. And one of my side jobs, or one of my side projects I do, is to dress up as a Bigfoot mascot. And so I contacted them and I said, hey, can I come down and kind of walk around your festival and be one of the Bigfoot mascots? And they said, sure, why not? So I kind of am a performer. I do kids' birthday parties in the Bigfoot costume. I do the festival. I do parades. So I got to go down there, and I met Troy Hudson. He's our leader of No Bro. And I started going on a couple of his expeditions, and I really just took off with wanting to go out in the field and just kind of discover for myself. I mean, I've never seen one, but I want to see one. So that's why I'm in this. That's kind of basically a roundabout way how I got here.
Wow. Amazing. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's actually, kind of similar to me, myself. I had, except I had an experience.
Okay.
I had a vocal sighting. Well, not vocal sighting. That doesn't make sense. I heard a scream off in the woods, and I'm originally from Winnipeg, Canada, directly north of Minnesota.
Okay.
So I went 2 hours northeast to a little place called the Experimental Lakes, Ontario. And what I didn't realize is this is actually a hotspot for Sasquatch sightings. So I had gone out there, and I was just camping with my friend. And I remember waking up at 3 a.m., 4 in the morning, and just hearing this scream off in the woods. And I had no idea what that was. It sounded kind of like a cross between like a howler monkey almost, and a woman being murdered.
Wow.
It was like blood curdling. Like, it freaked me right out. And I had no idea what it was. And I kind of just shook it off. And then I remember going home that following weekend and looking up on YouTube, like weird animal noises in the woods. And I went through bear, moose, elk, all the traditional stuff. And then I stumbled upon possible Bigfoot. And you hear Bigfoot and you go, okay, well, that's just a legend. And then when I watched that video, I literally jumped out of my chair. I couldn't believe it. I was so scared.
Wow.
So it really freaked me out, and it sparked my interest. And now I live in Calgary, Alberta, right on the doorstep of the Rocky Mountains. And actually, you're the first person that's going to hear this information. But I have a recording on my Instagram page as well as on my YouTube channel where I made a call. I made some whoops, and I got a response.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so up in Kananaskis, which is right on the cusp of the prairies, the Canadian prairies, and the Rocky Mountains.
Okay,
so
wow.
I went out there and I just made some whoops. I did some wood knocks, and no responses from the wood knocks. And then I just told myself, all right, well, it's getting dark, I probably don't want to be out here at night, and especially by myself. And right as I was about to get in my car, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to just try it one more time, just one whoop for old time's sake, right? And I did, and I got a response back.
Oh, wow.
For those of you listening, you can watch that Sasquatch vocalization clip on my YouTube channel, Sasquatch Diaries Podcast, or on my Instagram page at Sasquatch Diaries Podcast on Instagram. So, yeah, be sure to check that out. It's pretty faint, but there's definitely one sound. There's two sounds. So there's one quick one where it kind of sounds like a male, and then towards the tail end of the video, it's you hear something a little more high pitched, kind of like a female. And they were coming on opposite sides of the mountain, so I was really, really surprised by that. But man, am I glad to have it on video.
That's great. I'm gonna have to check that out after.
Yeah, please do.
Talking about sounds, I just went on a camp out March 27th. It was 27th, 28th. Oh, that weekend. Okay. This was in central Oklahoma, and I went with one of our NOBRO members, NOBRO members. He also has a group in the Oklahoma City area. He calls the North Canadian River Project, and it's all about we try to track these things along the North Canadian River, because if you know the geography of Oklahoma, in central Oklahoma, it's very flat and lots of fields, wheat fields, but along the river, it's very wooded. And so we're thinking they're traveling through there to go, to southeast Oklahoma or wherever. And anyway, we were camping out along the North Canadian River, and this was March 27th, Friday night. I wasn't even there yet because I went the next day, but our member, he heard a really loud scream. It was probably, I'm going to guess, 6:30 in the morning. The sun was just coming up. He said it was over by his truck. His truck was probably parked, I'd say 30, 40 yards away from our campsite. Mm-hmm. And he heard a really loud, mad scream over by his truck. I mean, I could try to replicate what he did, but I don't want to distort the microphone or anything. But he heard this really angry scream, and he tried to wake up our other member in the tent. And he must be a deep sleeper. He wouldn't wake up. He didn't hear the sound, but our main guy, his name's Kurt. He did hear the sound, and we went back about a month later. I think it was April 24th. We went back to the same area, camped out in the same spot, and we had a few more people. It was just 3 of us the first camp out. The second camp out, I think we had 6 of us, and we heard the same sound. I mean, I can't say it was the same sound, but Kurt, we heard this sound off in the distance. He said it matched the same sound he heard over by his truck the month prior. It didn't sound as angry and as mad, and it was a little bit more distant and faint, but he said it sounded a lot like the same sound. So that's pretty cool in this area that we've been going to, and we have a bait site in this area. We've set out some treats, some giftings for these things. Sometimes they're taken, sometimes they're not. And I'm documenting all this. I have a YouTube channel also. I don't want to make this program about my YouTube channel, but I do have a YouTube channel. We've documented all of this, and you can follow along. But yeah, it's pretty cool. We've had a good time going out there to this specific spot. I actually just went this past weekend to the same spot. We didn't do a camp out, but we went back and we found some very interesting scat. We were looking on the sandbars of the river for prints, tracks, and we weren't getting any luck with that. But we found this really long, I'll say a log, I don't know, of scat. And, our team talked about it. We just don't think it's coyote. It's just too much. It's too big. One log was 10 inches long, and we have the ruler beside it. We have the picture. I have it on video. So yeah, it was a good weekend. If you're a scat nerd, we were talking about scat for a long time and really studying this stuff. We discussed maybe trying to take some collect it for DNA purposes, but we just don't have the budget for that. We could have put it in a freezer, I guess, and tried to reach out to some people that want to donate money to go to the cause. But we just decided not to. But we do have it on video and on camera. And like I said, we put the ruler next to it. You can see how big it is. If it was a coyote, it was a very, very constipated coyote. So it was interesting. It was an interesting find. I will tell you off air, or if you're interested, I'll tell you where to look for that, the pictures and the video, and you can see it for yourself.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, if you don't mind, tell us about your YouTube channel. We love to spread the love here at Sasquatch Diaries.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so my YouTube channel is called Sasquatch Ranger, and all you have to do is go to YouTube, type that in, you'll find it. I have lots of videos. The video with this scat that I'm talking about, it's the latest video on the channel, and it's going to be called Scat Squatch, an in-depth discussion on scat. So you can click on there. Probably halfway through the videos, we're going to see the scat. We do talk about it a long time on there. We do get lots of video footage of it. So go to Sasquatch Ranger YouTube channel. I got lots of different field investigations that we've gone on. I also do like a little show where I narrate our Bigfoot reports. And that's called Sasquatch Ranger Files. And so you can go through there. Most of them are all Oklahoma encounters, but I do also take reports from other states. So, I mean, I've got one from Florida. I've got some from Alaska. I've got one from California, New Jersey. I try to get them from anywhere, but I'm in Oklahoma. That's where I live. So the majority of my reports are in Oklahoma, but hey, it spreads out to everywhere. And I always like people to write in and write your report to me, and I'd like to collect it. So.
Yeah, and that's the same with us. I mean, that's what we're trying to do here at Sasquatch Diaries. We're just trying to spread awareness and also create a safe space for people who do want to open up about these animals and their encounters. Because as you know, as I'm sure you've encountered people who want to obviously share this information with you because they just want answers. They want to figure out what's going on, but at the same time they're scared of being ridiculed. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes.
And
exactly.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do here is, it's a completely anonymous page. If you prefer to remain anonymous, if you prefer to reveal your identity or what have you, that's totally okay too. I mean, we're all about giving people the freedom to be as loud as they want, whenever they want here at Sasquatch Diaries. So that's our main goal.
Wow, this is like an echo. I feel like we're basically, we have the same principles and same policies, because that's basically what I like to go off of. So.
Exactly.
Very good. Very good.
Likewise. So yeah, we'll be sure to check you out. Squatch Ranger, right? Correct, on YouTube?
That's correct.
All right. Awesome. So all you viewers at home, please be sure to check that out and subscribe those videos. Do you have an Instagram page or a Facebook page, anything like that as well, Ryan?
Yeah, I do have a Facebook, and it's just Squatch Ranger. You can find me on Facebook. I have a Twitter. I have a bitshoot.com account. That's basically like YouTube, but it's a platform where you have freedom to share more views and stuff like that. They don't censor you quite as much. So yeah, I'm on all those platforms.
Fantastic. Okay. So one thing we want to ask you too is about encounters, like stuff that really stuck out to you through your investigations. We're trying to not only educate people on these animals and the existence of these creatures, but kind of also tell stories and kind of be just if there's a story that stuck out to you that really held a lot of meaning to you. Is there anything like that you can think of off the top of your head?
A story that sticks out to me that. Well, gosh, there's so many roadside encounters, and I just like the roadside encounters. I'm trying to think of one that's extra special. There's one. Yeah, okay, this one popped in my head. There's one in Alaska. I think I've taken two reports from Alaska, and this one in Alaska, the one I'm thinking of, it was pretty interesting. This guy was on a cruise ship, and they were at the port. They weren't out at sea yet. And he got his binoculars out, and he was just viewing the mountain line across the way there. And he said, through his binoculars, he said he could see it pretty up close, a hairy thing. And what it was doing was it was rolling in the snow. And he has no idea why, but I think he said when he kind of sensed that he was spotted by him with the binoculars, it just immediately jumped down and started rolling in the snow on the mountaintop. So that behavior, I'm not really sure why a Bigfoot or a creature like that would roll in the snow exactly. I guess to maybe camouflage himself if he's feeling like he's being sighted. That was pretty interesting. This is making me think of another one. There's another one in southeast Oklahoma. Off the top of my head, I can't think of exactly the area. I think it was McCurtain County. I'm pretty sure it was either McCurtain or LaFleur County in southeast Oklahoma. But kind of the same thing. This lady and her husband were riding in their truck at night. So their headlights were shining because they're driving at night. They started seeing this creature cross the road, but it went down and did they said an army roll is how she described it. And so I don't know why it would do an army roll, but both of those reports they kind of stick out to me because it's just kind of odd behavior. What's the reason? Why are they doing those rolls? Why would it roll across the highway before it got up on two legs and ran across the rest of the way? I mean, what was the point? So that kind of sticks out to me. It's interesting behavior.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, no, that is really odd behavior. And also too, I mean, it sparks your interest because it's like, okay, well, what the heck were they doing? That's one Sasquatch you were talking about in Alaska rolling around in the snow. It's like, yeah, to camouflage itself, or did it get hot all of a sudden and need to cool off by rolling around in the snow?
Yeah, who knows? I don't know.
Oh man. Okay. What about scary encounters, aggressive ones? I mean, besides the one that you just told me about, the one animal being shot at.
Yeah, the siege.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying that the siege of Honaby. That's what you're referring to.
Siege of Honaby. Yeah. Is there another one that you have that you wouldn't mind sharing with us? It doesn't matter where it's from.
Yeah. Let me think here. Aggressive behavior. I'm trying to think. That I've personally collected. Oh man, you're really stumping me here. It's usually they're just what I'm collecting are roadside encounters. Stuff when they're hunting. I can't think of anything where it was aggressive. But hey, now that I have another interesting story I want to share with you because you said interesting. Do you kind of remember that story? I think it was last year about the boy in I think it was North Carolina, the 2-year-old boy or 3-year-old boy being missing.
Yes, for a couple of days, right?
Yeah, and then the bear kind of helped him find his way back.
Yeah.
Well, before that even happened, probably a year or two before that, I collected a report that I think was back from. It was an older report that she gave me. Probably around early 2000s, maybe 2005 or 2004, somewhere in there. But this was in Arkansas, and similar situation. They were camping for a weekend, and her, I think she said 5-year-old son got lost, and it was during the day. They were kind of up on a mountain, and the men of the group, they all spread out and went on different trails. They were shouting the boy's name. They lost him for a couple hours. And anyway, when he finally came back, his mom was, questioning him like, "Hey, where were you? What happened?" And he saw he says he saw 3 bears at the top of the mountain. I think he was lost like 2 miles away from their camp even.
Wow.
When they found him. But he said, these 3 bears were on the top of the mountain, and they were, one of them, I think he said, was kind of a mom figure, and she kind of comforted him a little bit. The other 2 were male, and I don't think he wasn't necessarily scared of them, but he could kind of tell they were just, alphas, I guess, more so, than the female behavior. But she kind of made him feel better and more comfortable. And I think the report even said she kind of pointed him in the right direction to come back to where he was supposed to go to. So that's an interesting report. But scary ones, I can't think of a scary one off the top of my head right now. Man, I'm going to go back through the database after we get off of here and look for one.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, no, that's incredible. I've actually heard a story similar to that one, of a little boy. I don't remember where it was from exactly. Well, we'll say Texas. Could have been somewhere there or somewhere in the southeast, Alabama area. The southeast U.S. And this little boy, he was an adult man. He's telling this story. He was saying that he was living at a foster home where he was getting abused physically, sexually, and emotionally. And he had just had enough. I want to say he was about 8 or 9 years old, and he took off running one day. And he ran through this swamp, and as he was running through the swamp, he got stuck in, I want to say, like some mud or some quicksand or something like that. And this little boy started screaming and shouting and crying and help me and all that kind of stuff. And he just thought he was done, like he was sinking. And he said, right as the mud or whatever it was getting to about his neck, he heard like something like sounded like a train crashing through the woods coming towards him. And he didn't know what it was. And he said immediately as that happened, a female Sasquatch emerged from the woods and pulled him out of the mud and carried him by like you would a dog or a puppy from the back of its neck kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But by his clothes.
Yeah.
And carried him out of the woods. And he was just screaming and crying. He's never been so scared in his life because he doesn't know what he's looking at. It looks like a monkey, but it's huge, right?
Right.
Anyways, it carries him all the way from the mud to the edge of this wood line right by the highway. And this animal just set him down gently and stood there and looked at him and could hear a car coming and just looked back in the direction of the car that was coming, looked back at the little boy, looked back at the car coming again. And then as soon as it saw, I guess, the headlights or whatever it was, it just ran back into the woods real fast. And it just stood there. And it turns out it was his foster dad that was abusing him that ended up picking him up and just, was really upset that he took off and all that kind of stuff. But he said, like, it was an experience he'll never forget for the rest of his life. And he's remembering it in great detail. He remembers the color of the fur. He said, he knew it was female because you could clearly see large breasts. Mm-hmm. And he said that it kind of grunted and it almost sounded like it was talking, but it had a female tone of voice too. Mm-hmm. And he said it was by far one of the scariest experiences he's ever had in his life. And he'll never forget it. And this was, I want to say, maybe in the early 70s. And he came forward and started talking about this encounter maybe last year.
Wow. He kept it with him for a long time, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it just blew me away, right? Like, there's so many experiences because, when it comes to like Hollywood, and I know there aren't too many Sasquatch movies out there, but, in all of them, pretty much, they're displayed as this territorial, predatorial, dangerous creature, that, you go out into the woods and it's a monster and it'll rip your head off, if you upset it or whatever. And that's not necessarily the case. I mean, I've heard stories of hikers, I've heard the story of a hiker falling off a cliff and him waking up on top of this cliff again, at the top of the cliff that he had originally fell off of. And
wow.
Said that, as he woke up, he looked up and he saw this large hair-covered creature walking off into the woods.
Huh.
So, I mean, just incredible stuff. It's like these animals are almost humanistic. They have a very humanistic touch to them, because if we were out, in let's say the Congo, who knows if a wild gorilla, encountered a human being that was passed out, would they carry them somewhere else or would they just leave them there? What would happen,
Yeah. I wouldn't want to be there.
Yeah.
Say that much.
One of the most incredible stories I've ever heard. But yeah, no, I mean, and what I've heard too is, especially the Southeast is most of the reports that I've heard from that area are where they're pretty aggressive.
Yes, I've heard that too.
Arkansas, yeah, which is surprising. And if I may ask, do you have any idea as to why that may be? Like, are people more aggressive down there as well? Like, I know that, especially in that area, it's the Bible Belt, a lot of people carry guns and stuff like that too. So do you think that's one of the reasons they're a little more, quicker to lash out at people?
Yeah. I think kind of what I've been told and heard on programs is they're just kind of a hybrid's not the right word. Just a different breed, I guess.
Okay.
And that breed is just more aggressive. So that's generally what I've heard. I don't think I'm using the right word here, but yeah, they're just a kind of a different breed. Trying to come up with a better word, but yeah, they're just different.
Wow. Yeah. And that's the thing is I've never really looked into that too much, but it's just kind of a theory too. And one thing I was also going to ask you as well, and I asked a few of the other people I've interviewed on the show, is do you think, with the whole COVID-19 thing, people staying indoors and all that kind of stuff, do you think these creatures are coming, a little more closer towards civilization now that everything's died down, coming into campsites that are usually pretty often inhabited, like campsites, national parks and stuff like that, near roads and stuff like that, just because there's far less traffic in these areas? Do you think they're more inclined to come into these areas?
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, if people are staying home, like, they were kind of expected to, yeah, there's less people out. Maybe they're going to get a little bit more confidence. They're going to see that. Um, Maybe venture places they wouldn't normally because there's just not as much foot traffic by humans. Yeah, it just makes sense. It also makes sense that the sightings would go down if people are staying at home. But then on the flip side of that, if they're getting closer to civilization, like you say, maybe the sightings will go up. So it could be either way. I don't know what to make of that. But yeah, it makes sense that if people are staying home, that yeah, they would venture closer. Yeah, perfect sense to me.
Yeah, and it's just a simple theory I had because I'm sitting there talking to myself or thinking to myself rather, and I had a gentleman a few weeks ago from Florida, and he's from Central Florida and just outside Orlando, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
And he was telling me there's a national park. So he had this encounter, like from his doorstep to this exact spot where he saw this creature was 25 minutes. And that includes, the place that he parked his car, getting off on foot and going to this pond where he usually goes fishing, which is incredible to me.
Yeah.
If they're coming that close to civilization, and Orlando's not a small city either,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
If they're venturing that close, and I can't remember the exact date. I think it was, just before New Year's Eve. So I want to say end of December 2019. And COVID hadn't necessarily, I think, really hit, but people were probably starting to stay in a little bit more towards that time. But it's just, it's baffling to me. And
yeah.
have you had anything like that happen in Oklahoma? Like, do you have folks that are staying home a little more often? They're seeing these creatures on their property during the day or at night, just because they have a lot of more free time on their hands.
Well, I don't know about during this whole COVID-19 thing, but yeah, I do know of I think it was in Moore, Oklahoma. I'm pretty sure, and that's a suburb of Oklahoma City. A woman went on another program, and she kind of explained how these things keep coming up to her back fence and getting up really, really close to her yard. And her husband had several experiences, and that's on the outskirts of a suburb of Oklahoma City. And another thing that sparked in my brain while you were talking about the COVID-19, we have this wildlife management refuge in Oklahoma City called Stinchcomb Wildlife Refuge, and it is right up against the boundary, the city limits of Oklahoma City. If you look at a map, Finding Bigfoot, they've done 2 episodes in Oklahoma. I think the first episode, I think it was season 3, episode 3. They actually did an investigation at Stinchcomb, or they went and part of the episode was about Stinchcomb. And I've been there several times with my guys that I go out with, and that's one of our spots. Like I said, it's so close to Oklahoma City. It's so weird. It's 1,000 acres, around roughly 1,000 acres. The North Canadian River flows right through it. And so that goes along with one of our theories is when they're coming through Oklahoma, they're traveling the rivers. And we think this Stinchcomb is like a kind of a place for them to, like a rest stop, I guess is what I'll say. They can hang out there. It is a private, a public park, excuse me. And people, go hiking, they walk their dogs. There's people that bike through there. So there is a lot of human traffic through there, but there's areas in there that people can't get to, or it's hard to. And we think that, yeah, they could definitely be hanging around in there. And like I said, on Finding Bigfoot, one of the stories they featured on season 3, episode 3 was from Stinchcomb, and a guy was kayak with his wife, and he saw one on the river banks. And that's one of our spots we go to is Stinchcomb, and we go and we look along the river banks and we try to find footprints, tracks. One of the videos on my YouTube channel, we were at Stinchcomb last year, 2019. This would have been March 2019. Don't remember the exact date, but we were following. It's not the main road, but it's closed. You can't drive your vehicles in there, but it is kind of a little roadway. But there's a gate that's locked. You can't drive vehicles back there. We were hiking back there, and we found a trackway, and I got on camera. I mean, it's on video. That was probably gosh, I'm going to guess like a half mile long, and they had toe impressions in these tracks. And the day we went, it was raining. It was probably in the 40s. It had been raining prior that week. It's cool. It's cold. The prints were about 10 inches long, so they're not super big, but maybe it could be a juvenile Sasquatch. I don't know, a smaller one, but they had toe impressions, and we were just thinking, a kid or a teenager. I mean, who wants to go barefoot walking along for, half a mile or so, or a quarter of a mile in between, and be barefoot in 40-degree weather, and it's raining and it's cold? I mean, we were the only ones in the park that day because there's only one parking lot, and our vehicles were the only ones there. We're the only crazy ones to want to go squatching. Nobody else wanted to walk their dogs or hike that day, or beautiful day. But we find that when it's raining like that, it softens up the trails and stuff, and we can find possible prints. We like to look on days like that.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, because I mean, my first inclination, like me personally, I don't have the full hiking equipment yet. I'm getting there. I got to pay all my bills first, but it's one of those things where if it's a nice day, I have no excuse not to get out there and just just take a look. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily go say I'm squatching, but I am going for a hike, and I am obviously enjoying nature. But I mean, for me to have like that experience, like I said last weekend, I mean, it just solidifies, my belief and my desire to kind of almost want to research this a lot more and kind of get to the bottom of it, because, it's clearly evident that there's something out there, and people have so much to say as, oh, we don't have a body, we don't have blood, we don't have hair, we don't have this and that. And it's not necessarily true. There's quite a bit of evidence out there. I mean, you just mentioned, dermal ridges and placer footprints. I mean, it's pretty darn hard to fake when you really think about it.
Yeah. You'd have to go to a lot of trouble, and who would want to spend all that time and trouble doing that just for a prank?
Exactly. And, you don't even know if someone's going to cross paths and see that footprint. You know what I mean? So why would you go through all that time and set it up, and maybe, just maybe, someone will walk by and be like, hey, look at that, Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, you're rolling the dice, and it could backfire on you. Nobody might ever see it. So, yeah, it's kind of pointless. Could be.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that area, too, that you were saying, Stenchcombe, yes. That area, too, and you said it's right on the edge of the wildlife reserve, you said?
It's right on the edge of Oklahoma City. It's a wildlife refuge. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Wildlife management refuge. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So do people working at this wildlife refuge, have they ever had encounters, or did they mention anything as well? These creatures coming up towards the fence, kind of curious about the animals that they have inside the sanctuary or anything like that?
I don't know that, but if you end up interviewing my colleagues, those two other guys, Kurt or Evans, they would be great guys to ask, because they live in that area, and they know more. They have more of the local contacts and stuff like that I don't, because I'm up in Tulsa. So that would be a great question for them, but I can't answer that at this point. No, I don't know about any staff coming forward.
Okay.
With anything.
No problem. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So, because it's one thing I wanted to look into, because I've heard different things. People who have animals and stuff like that really entice the curiosity of these creatures.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not only that, but like people are very also reserved to share that information too. They're kind of like, we got bears coming up here, but it's not really a bear, and they know it too usually.
Right.
I've heard different stories of, I think it was, I want to say in Washington State, which is, as you know, the Pacific Northwest is like the Bigfoot hotspot of the world.
Yes.
They were talking about how they had they were running like a small refuge for dogs, for stray dogs. And these animals would come up there, and they would just drive the dogs crazy. Like, just, they would it would be a quiet night, and then they'd hear these like 40 or 50 dogs just go nuts, and they could never figure out what it was. And then one night, I think the owner of the property was outside having a cigarette and just hanging out on the porch. And, the kennel that they had for these animals was, I want to say 40 yards away, give or take. They had a large backyard. And, during the day, they would let the dogs out and just kind of let them run wild on the property. They had a couple acres. Anyway, he said that there was this large black figure that emerged from the wood line, and it had almost like a stick in its hand or something, like a rod. It said it looked like a stick, and it would tap the wall of the kennel, like the cage, and all these dogs would be sleeping, and then they would tap it. The dogs would wake up, freak out, and the animal would go run back into the woods. And then he sat there, and he said he was up for about an hour and a half, and this animal did it about 3 or 4 times. So it's almost like it was like teasing them.
Yeah.
It was like a teenage Sasquatch, give or take, doing what teenagers do, antagonizing or driving the animals nuts.
That's pretty interesting.
Which was incredible. Yeah. I mean, it didn't mean any harm, but I've heard, other stories too of dogs getting killed, and, farmers, seeing their livestock ripped apart, one morning, and they're just baffled as to what could do this. Do you have any reports like that from Oklahoma?
I can't think of one off the top of my head, but hey, go back to your scary question, a scary encounter. I thought of one while you were telling that last one. Okay. This is in Southwest Oklahoma.
Okay.
And this was a oil truck driver, and he goes and he drives to these oil stations, and he does his thing with the oil truck and everything, and checks on the oil rig and all that stuff. So we have these oil stations spread out through Oklahoma. There was an oil boom a few years ago in Northwest Oklahoma. But anyway, every once in a while there'll be these oil stations in the middle of like a farm field, a wheat field or whatever. And sometimes they have a few trees around them. But for the most part, there's not just woods right there. But anyway, this guy, he was I think he was there like 2-3 in the morning, super late at night or early in the morning, and he was doing his thing, and he saw something, and hairy, your general description. It scared him so bad. He was frightened. He got in his truck, and he started driving down this oil road. It's not a city highway or a county road. It's just a road that was made to drive back to the station. And, it's not well made and stuff like that. And you really don't want to drive fast on it. You could lose control of your vehicle. And I think it was kind of curvy too. Anyway, he was so scared in his description. He said he was going like 60 miles an hour down this road. I think it was like a quarter of a mile long or something. He was trying to get back to the main road. And he said this thing was chasing him, and it was staying with him. And when he got back to the main road, he saw it by the main road. It stayed up with him going 60 miles an hour as from his account. And he was so scared. He didn't want to talk to the investigator about it. And I think he ended up quitting. He didn't want to go back out there again. He just was done. So that was pretty scary encounter for this guy. Yeah.
Holy crap. Wow.
And that was back in, I think that was in January of 2020. So that's pretty fresh.
Wow. Seriously.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's one of our reports. We have it in our database. We've posted it on our Facebook page, the NOBRO. You can read the story there.
Wow. That's absolutely incredible, but also frightening. And did he say, did he do anything to upset this animal, do you think? Or was it just, just kind of parked there and kind of...
He was just working on his truck. He didn't do anything out of the ordinary, just going through his normal routine. And this thing, I think, was just ticked off that he was there and kind of just ran him out of the area. and he was scared. He didn't really want to talk to our investigator either of that district of Oklahoma, the Southwest district. I think it was hard for him to discuss it with him.
Really?
Yeah, he was very shook up.
Wow. So what enticed him to kind of open up about it then, if I may ask?
I'm not sure. That's our investigator out in Southwest Oklahoma's. That's his neck of the woods. I don't know how he came about contacting him. But I guess he's kind of known as the Bigfoot guy around those parts. And so I guess somebody, led him to our investigator to take the report. I'm not sure. I don't know how they hooked up exactly. I don't remember.
Gotcha. Wow. That's still, I mean, very freaky. And 60 miles per hour. I mean, that's quite a bit. I mean,
I don't know if that's an exaggeration because he was so scared and his adrenaline was pumping and he felt like he was going 60. I don't know if he actually looked down at the speedometer and he just knew for a fact he was going 60, but I know he was peeling out and probably throwing rocks down that road. I'm sure.
No kidding. Yeah. And what kind of, was this like a Ford pickup truck or was this like a semi truck?
Like a semi truck.
Wow.
Yeah.
He was really hauling ass then out of there for sure.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
And when you said the main road, I mean, was that like one of the main interstates that he hit?
A state highway.
Okay, gotcha. So it's basically a freeway essentially. And as soon as he got on that road, I guess he kind of realized, all right, it's out of my area. This is my territory essentially.
Right. Yeah.
Oh man. And was he by himself or was he with other people?
Yes, he was by himself.
Okay. Well, there you go. That's recipe for fear for sure. Oh man.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Now in Oklahoma, I've heard too that these animals also aren't afraid to go up onto people's porches, into their property, at least some of the reports that I've heard through the grapevine as well as on the BFRO website. And then I think I also watched an episode of Finding Bigfoot where one animal actually came up to someone's window and kind of peered in. Do you have any reports as such?
Yeah. We have, I have some reports like that. Yeah, we have ones where they come up and look in the window. Person gets a glimpse of a face or something or eyes. There's one on the BFRO website that's coming to mind that's pretty close to where I live. It's over in a town called Claremore. And this woman she was at her dentist. She works at a dentist office. She was like a secretary. And this was like 7 a.m. And, she looks out the window. She's in town too. And this goes, this goes back to your COVID-19 where where it had a theory they're coming up closer to civilization and stuff. This goes along with that, even though it wasn't COVID-19 then. I don't remember the year, but it was probably early 2000s. But yeah, she was working at a dentist office and she looked out her window and she saw a hairy creature walking. She was not a believer, but she immediately said in her head, that's a Bigfoot. That's what a Bigfoot looks like. That's what they say Bigfoot looks like. That's definitely what it is. And she saw it. I think she said it was around 7 feet tall. I'm not sure what it was. It was standing next to something she compared it to and kind of guesstimated it was 7 feet tall. But yeah, she was kind of shaken up a little bit. She told her coworker, she ran and told a coworker and they came back and it was gone. Wasn't there. So she kind of got got joked around about, through her office about it. And that's kind of why people don't want to open up about it. But I think it was just all in good fun, but I think they kind of believed her for the most part, but they had to kind of give her some shame, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, about it and laugh about it. But, that's an interesting one because it was, in town. I don't even know if it's next to any woods or anything. So very interesting, but yeah, it was a lady that doesn't believe in Bigfoot, never was into Bigfoot or the phenomenon or never, wouldn't talk about Bigfoot in conversations. And I mean, immediately she's like, that's Bigfoot. I mean, fits all the descriptions that I've been told. And, she's not studying Bigfoot, but she just knew it was immediately. So.
And that was at her work that you were saying, right?
Yeah, she worked at a dentist office. That's on the BFRO website. If you go to the Oklahoma page, and I think it's Rogers County, Claremore, you can read. There's not going to be very many reports from Rogers County. That's one of them in there. Class A sighting, lady at a dentist office. Yeah, go read it. It's pretty interesting.
No kidding. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Because my first inclination was, she was on her way to work in the morning and she saw this outside her front porch.
No, she was in the office.
Wow.
She was and looked out the window of her office building and saw one just walking by.
It walked by. Okay. It didn't stop and look at her or anything like that?
Not to my recollection. I think it was just kind of walking off in the distance next to a shed or another building that was next door to theirs. So no, I don't think it came up close to the window, but it was close enough for her to see it and know exactly what it was. She had no doubt.
Incredible. Wow. I don't even know what I would do at that point, like I work, fairly close to downtown, if I saw a Bigfoot just cruising on by, and I'm there with my coworker being like, did you see that? I don't know what I would do, That's crazy to even think, you're at work, you're having your morning coffee and, oh man, what's in this coffee this morning?
Yeah.
Oh man. Wow. So have you folks been in touch with this lady, or is this just strictly a report on the BFRO website?
Yeah, this is just strictly on the BFRO. This was before our group formed. Our Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research Organization. We've been around for 2-3 years. Now our lead investigator, he's been in the BFRO. He's actually was a member. He's not anymore, but he's actually been in the BFRO. He investigated the Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas areas. So he's collected a lot of reports from there for BFRO, and he's got reports throughout the years. I mean, he's got reports that we haven't even added to the database yet. I'm trying to get him to submit them over to me so I can transcribe them and type them in. But he's just got so many, and he's a busy guy. He's in emergency management, and during this COVID-19 thing, he's just super busy and can't really get away to do much. He's really missing going out in the field and going on weekend expeditions, stuff like that. But it was before us, that report.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And then I wanted to ask you too, getting back to children. Have you especially relaying it back to that the little child that went missing? I think you said it was in North Carolina. Is that correct?
Well, I referenced the North Carolina story that happened last year, but it was my encounter, my report that I collected was in Arkansas.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
I referenced the North Carolina because that hit the news wires big time last year. I think it was last year.
Yeah. I remember hearing about it. It's like, I was led around the woods by this monkey,
Yeah.
Going, what? This is North Carolina. We're not living in the mountains of Africa. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're gorillas and such. But that one really took me by surprise. And, children too. I mean, people are always disregarding all, those kids are delusional and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, why would they say monkey?
Yeah.
Why didn't they say bear or a wolf? So, man, I don't know. That's one of the stories that definitely sticks out to me. But what I was going to ask is, are there stories, of children having similar experiences in Oklahoma? Do you have kids coming forward or people, coming forward from when they were adults, filing reports and saying, this happened to me when I was a kid or anything like that?
Yeah, that does happen. One of our guys that's part of our group in Central Oklahoma, we're called the North Canadian River Project, and one of our guys, he had a childhood sighting. He was camping. He was at a summer camp, and I think he was around 8, if I remember right. And he was in his tent, and I guess it was the tent screen. They had the door not zipped up, the main door, but it was the tent screen at night. It was, I think he said it was super hot because, this is like summer of Oklahoma. We have pretty hot summers, especially in July and August. We can have 100, be in the hundreds several days in a row. But anyway, it was hot, and they had the screen door zip shut, and he was just laying there, and for some I don't know if he woke up or if he was already awake, but he looked at the screen door, and I mean, there was red eyes right there at his tent. And at the time, I mean, he didn't know what it was exactly. And I mean, I don't think he thought it was, but it was some kind of creature that he did not know what it was. Definitely spooked him. All it did was look in the tent. Eventually walked away. But yeah, his description is red eye right there and through the tent door. And it wasn't until later on when he grew up, he didn't really tell his story to very many people, not very many people at all. He just didn't really share it with his friends, maybe close group of friends, but not just general friends, And it wasn't until later in life until he really opened up about that, seeing that creature at summer camp. And the next night, he said he didn't care if it was hot. He zipped all the windows shut. He was going to sweat it out in that tent, and he didn't want to see that creature again.
No kidding. I mean, just the level of fear too. And it's like, do you tell your counselor or do you tell your friends, and what's going to happen when you do, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's so real to you, but to somebody else, they're just going to pass it off. Yeah. You're just crazy.
Exactly. And I've heard of similar experiences too. I heard of a lady too, that had the same sort of experience. She woke up in the middle of the night, and she said it was maybe at the most the face of this animal, like she could hear it breathing. She could hear it, the air coming through its nostrils, and these piercing yellow or red eyes or whatever it was. She said it was, she held her hand in front of her face, and she said it was about, 7-8 inches away, which is horrifying. And also interesting, coming, on our parts, probably we would find that pretty darn interesting, to say the least. But for this woman, I mean, it was probably one of the most terrifying experiences she's ever had. And when she told me this story, she started crying a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Because it was so hard for her to tell this story.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sitting there, and I'm just like, I'm thinking to myself, there's no way you could hear this story from this person and just say to their face, you're lying.
Right.
There's just no way. There was such sincerity in her voice, and for someone to start crying too, I mean, you have to be a pretty darn good actress.
Right. Yeah.
And she definitely wasn't. I can't remember her exact occupation, but I remember hearing this story, I want to say last year or 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she just said, it was very, very scary. And she was in a tent with her boyfriend. She said, same situation. They were camping, I want to say, in northwestern Washington State, I believe it was, somewhere in the mountains there. And it just came up to her car and just stared, into her tent, and just stared at her through the screen.
Wow.
And I was like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
same reaction you're having right now. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Going back to the talking to the witnesses and stuff, and not knowing, I've had the thought, I've taken all these reports, and sometimes I'm just wondering, are these people, some of these people, just giving me a line? Or, I mean, I want to trust every single one of them, because this is one of my favorite parts about the phenomenon, is collecting their eyewitness reports and listening to people who actually saw one. Mm-hmm. I just love hearing their story and them tell it and all that. And anyway, I like to approach it as a trust them but confirm approach. Trust but confirm. But you just never know. There might be, every once in a while, you might have some weirdo or prankster that's just wants attention and giving you a line. But I think for the most part, I think everybody's being truthful and honest with me. I just get that feeling.
Absolutely. And you can usually tell right away, and the more you talk with someone, you're more inclined to believe, okay, this person's probably delusional, or this person is telling the truth. I remember hearing a story too from a gentleman in British Columbia, Canada, which is just, it borders Washington State. So that's like our Bigfoot hub. And then where I am in Alberta is just east of that, the next province, state over. And that's where we also have like a very, very large amount of sightings given the mountains and such. But someone was saying too, like, this animal was looking at them, and they didn't know what it was at first, and they could see it off in the distance. They were hunting, and when they looked at it through the scope, they said they saw it in the distance, and they thought, oh, it's a family unit of bears. Mm-hmm. But it was two of them, and they were on two legs, and they're going, what the heck? They looked at it through the scope, and they said it was a father, a mother, and a child.
Yeah.
And this was back, I want to say, in like 99. This happened, 98. So there weren't any cell phones. They didn't have a camera and all that kind of stuff. They were just hunting, right? Anyways, they said they were watching them and observing them for about 15 minutes, they said. And finally, it was this boy and his father, and I was interviewing the son who told this story, and he said, I thought about shooting it, like I just wanted to, but when I looked at it, it just looked too human. And he said he's gone back to that site multiple times, like the exact location, because they were, I want to say, maybe 350 yards away. So they were a ways away. So they could observe them at a safe distance, and they were up on a ridge line, right? So chances are these creatures couldn't see them, and they were quiet. They were just observing. But his dad and him saw it, and the dad is like, oh, we just saw bears, or we didn't see anything, or I don't know what you're talking about, kind of thing. Whereas the son, Steve, we'll call him, was more inclined to share the story with me, where his dad was kind of a little more reserved. And, I respect that. There's no problem. But he had said he went back to that site, and he said that he saw the large male, what he believes was the male, near a tree. And at this tree, there was a branch. And as it was walking into the wood line, it walked right under this branch, and it had to bend its head to the side and go under it to walk under it. And they went back to that site, and they measured it from the ground. And he said it was just over 10 feet tall.
Oh, man. Big guy.
And it had to bend its head to get under it. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like we're dealing with a large animal, too. Mm-hmm. He said, I could see its muscles. It had biceps. It had fingers. I could. Its teeth were kind of yellow. It had, really dark eyes. It didn't, I don't know what the human eye anatomy, but there was no white part of the eyes. He said,
okay,
these animals had like full black eyes, and they were just staring at him. And he said, that's when he knew it wasn't human. At first, he thought it was some people in gorilla suits, and then he's going, why the hell would they be up here in the mountains? This makes no sense. And it was fall at that time too. And he said he could see when you breathe, you could see the oxygen coming out of your nose.
Right.
Like the nostrils flaring and this warm air coming out of it. And he's just like, okay, this is a real animal. But he said it was like the best way he could describe it was staring at a unicorn. He couldn't believe what he was seeing.
Right. Yeah.
And, just to hear that was probably one of the most sincere stories I've ever heard too.
And see, what upsets me is the skeptics, they'll hear a story like that and they'll just dismiss it as, oh, you saw you saw a misidentified bear. It was a bear just took a few steps, and that upsets me that skeptics will just pass stuff like that off when they said they saw muscle definition and everything. They say, "Oh, it's just a misidentified bear." I have a video on my YouTube channel. It's called something along the lines of Bigfoot eyewitness quiz, and I go through all these animals. There's 10 questions on it, and most of them are bear, upright bear walking, and shows them different ways that, bears can walk. The clips I show, they're taking more than a few steps, but it's just so obvious. My 6-year-old daughter, I had her watch the video, and she got every animal right. She knew it was a bear walking, it wasn't a Bigfoot. On all the different clips that were bear. I think that if it is, the only time it's going to be misidentified bear is if there's just so much brush in their field of vision in between the eyewitness and the subject, the Bigfoot or the bear, whatever, and the bear is walking behind all this brush and branches, and they just see hair, and they see walking, and they see brown hair for whatever. That's the only, those instances maybe, but like this story you just told me here, there's no way that's a misidentified bear. So that just kind of upsets me. Skeptics act that way sometimes.
Yeah, that's just the fact of the reality, and that's one of the reasons I started this channel, Ryan. Is I am just frustrated with people. You saw a Sasquatch. Well, show me the pics. Or it didn't happen or whatever. And whatever they have is blurry. And I get it. That can be frustrating at times, because it's like, okay, you saw an animal, but why is it blurry? And yeah. I think too, one of the reasons that is because people are just so scared, and they start to shake too while they're holding their camera. Right. And that's just what happens. They try to take a picture or a video or what have you of this animal, and it's shaky. Mm-hmm. So it's because they're frozen solid, or they're freaked out. As would I if I saw one. Imagine seeing an 8-foot tall man, that weighs like 1,000 pounds, and you don't know what you're looking at. It's all covered in hair. It's freaky.
Right. Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I started this channel is like I said, people can really express themselves and not be afraid. They can remain anonymous. They could, like for example, your name's Ryan. They could say, "Oh, my name's Dave." That's totally fine. Yeah. There's no way that they're going to be discovered. And they can just share their story with the world. And, this is what happened. This is what I did. And when you hear people like the story I just told you, people realize it's like, okay, it's kind of hard to fake, especially with, unless you have a guy on stilts, who's huge, or, an 8-foot tall guy, and you covered him in a fur coat, you put him in the woods somewhere, and you did his makeup and everything, and you made him look as such. What's the likelihood of that happening? Right. Or did you actually see something? So that's the main goal. As I'm sure it's the same with you guys in Nobro. It's, you guys are just trying to spread awareness, educate people, and also shed some light on the reality of these creatures. Is they're not a figment of our imagination. They're not a Native American folklore.
Right. That's exactly what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to educate. We do Bigfoot town hall meetings as they're requested. We'll bring people in and do a presentation. If anybody in that community, reaches out to us, we've done library lectures for, grown-ups, kids all the way to grown-ups, on our findings and just what we've discovered. And we're just about outreach and reaching out and educating the public about what we're doing.
And that's how it should be. People are just dying to, I feel like share their testimony. This is what happened to me. This is what I saw. This is what I heard. This is what or for example, people who have these animals living on their property or very close to their property. This is what I'm dealing with. can you help me, or can you shed some light on this? And you feel, it's almost like inhuman to say, no, you're obviously not telling the truth. It's like, what are you talking about, man? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's the goal with Sasquatch Diaries. Is I'm sick and tired of listening to people, shut down people for sharing their stories or ridiculing them,
Right.
lay off, the drugs or whatever you're doing. No, you cut that out. These people are just, trying to share what happened to them. They're sincere people. They're kind people. I've heard stories from doctors too, who have had encounters with these animals, and they just don't know who to talk to, or they just they just don't they don't know what to do.
Yeah, one of the stories I like is I think he's a chiropractor, I think, or a doctor up in Oregon. I can't remember his name, but he's a big guy. He was bald. He's been on a few shows, but yeah, he was walking down a trail in Oregon, I believe, with his family, and I mean, he never would have thought of Bigfoot, but he saw one, and he told us the heck out of there, and they had to not outrun the Bigfoot, but run away from it, and they eventually got. And he was a solid guy, and a lot of people believed him because of I guess who he was and his profession, and he was just a solid guy. I can't remember his name though. I'll have to look that up later. I wish I remembered his name.
No, it's all good. And you know what? That's okay. It kind of fits the dynamic here at Sasquatch Diaries. We're okay with people remaining anonymous if they prefer.
Well, this guy was on TV. He's been on a couple of specials. So I just wish I remembered his name or the program I saw him on. But yeah, wow. I can't. So that doesn't help, huh?
No, it's all good though. It's still a story. It's still worthy of being published for sure too, and especially if it's coming from a guy as such, right? I doubt a chiropractor is going to be wanting to share campfire Bigfoot stories, on TV unless they're real.
Right.
Anyway, so I just want to say thank you so much, Ryan, for being on our show. We really, really appreciate it. To all you viewers who are listening, you can follow Ryan's YouTube channel, Squatch Ranger. Is that correct? Am I saying that correct?
Yes, Squatch Ranger. That's right.
Perfect. And also the Facebook page as well, too, right?
Yes, sir.
Same name across the board?
Do what?
It's the same name?
Squatch Ranger. That's correct, yes. And also I want to go ahead and, if you'll let me, give the website of our Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research Organization.
Absolutely.
They can log in there. We have a Facebook page that's called Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research Organization. You can find us there. Also have a website. It's really long, so you're going to have to write this down, but I'll give it to you anyway. https://sites.google.com/site/Native OK Bigfoot Research.
Yeah, you know what? If you don't mind sending me that in an email, Ryan, and I'll post it in the description on when I publish this on YouTube.
All right, I'll do it.
Yeah. So, folks, for you listening too, please make sure to visit the website too. Click like, subscribe, comment, share, post it, and spread the awareness, because there's people out there who have stories that want to share, and they're just a little too scared to come forward, and we want to show them that it's totally okay to be scared, and we respect your privacy no matter what. We're just trying to spread awareness of the existence of these creatures, because they are in fact real, as we through this discussion and through the stories that we've just shared. Whether you want to believe it or not, they're real and they're out there, and there's going to be a day where we discover them.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Thank you very much, Ryan. We appreciate it, and we'll keep in touch too, for sure. So make sure, folks, Squatch Ranger. That's where it is on YouTube. All right. Thank you very much. Take care, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. That was fun.
Likewise, sir. Take care. Have yourself a good one.
All right. You too. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Sasquatch Diaries podcast. If you like what you heard, hit like and subscribe button. Don't forget to come back next week where we'll have a new entry. And remember, if you or someone you know had an encounter and would like to share it on our show, contact Sasquatch Diaries
Podcast
at gmail.com.